What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. For the past couple of days, there have been rumblings in the boxing industry that Canelo Alvarez, who's the face of boxing, the cash cow of boxing, #1 pound-for-pound fighter on many boxing experts' lists, was said to be in negotiations with WBC middleweight champion Jermall Lions Only Charlo. Now, Charlo would have to move up in weight for that fight to take place. Michael Carpenter, who writes for ESPN.com, he also has a close affiliation to the PBC, reported this on Max on Boxing. A lot of YouTube channels ran with this story, saying, oh man, this is going to be a good fight, man. Finally, Canelo Alvarez is stepping up and fighting a guy in his prime. Canelo Alvarez is off the European bum tour, fighting these European domestic level fighters. He's going to fight a real fighter from the US, a real test, a guy that's hungry, a guy that's not going to come in here with a loser's mindset, a guy that's going to push the envelope, a guy that's got a good jab, a guy that's got good power, a guy that's got a mean streak, a guy that's not going to bow down to Canelo Alvarez. A lot of people got excited about this potential matchup. But you wonder why I didn't do no video about this, because when I did a little background checking on this so-called fight being close to coming to fruition, I found out that, this ain't what people saying it is. This ain't what it's cracking up to be, as the old saying. This fight is not happening next. It's not happening next. Eddie Reynoso is the shot caller. He's the one running the show. He wants to fight. He wanted to, he went to the WBC convention. Remember that, huh? That wasn't too long ago. He went to the WBC convention and petitioned the WBC to set up a fight between Canelo Alvarez and cruiserweight champion Makabu, who held one of the titles in the cruiserweight division. Now, that fight is not likely next because Makabu has a mandatory defense that's going to take place in Warren, Ohio. I believe that's the birthplace of Don King, only in America. One of the greatest promoters of all time. You got to give him credit. Now, he stole a lot of money from a whole lot of fighters, but he made a lot of money for a whole lot of fighters. That's why he felt he could take this type of money, because the way he promoted the fight, he'd get on these different talk shows and these different TV shows promoting the fights. He would do a goddamn good job promoting these fights. He'd be using words you ain't never heard of. His vocabulary was very deep. Even though it didn't make a lot of sense, half the time he was saying, it sounded good. And Don King felt that what he brought to the table allowed him to take a higher percentage out of the fighter's purse than your average run-of-the-mill promoter. So with all that being said, that fight's going to take place in Warren, Ohio. I think Trevor Bryan, who ain't fought and I don't know how long. Everybody want to talk about Gary Russell, don't never fight nobody. Oh man, Gary Russell ain't fought in 395 days and all this, that, and the third. And one thing about Gary Russell is he gonna at least get you one fight a year. You can't say that for Trevor Bryan. Trevor Bryan ain't gonna get you no one fight in 3 years, let alone 1 year. That's neither here nor there. That fight's not happening next. I don't think Eddie Reynoso's fancies a fight with Jermall Charlo or David Benavidez. As we know, Canelo Alvarez has stated this numerous times that he don't want to have no more fights, no more matchups with Latino fighters. So that will pretty much cross out David Benavidez. As far as Jermall Charlo go, they don't want a guy that's fighting at a lower weight to move up and get a title shot. They don't feel like that should happen. Jermall Charlo's going to have to jump up to 168. There ain't no fights for him at 160 if he ain't going to fight Triple G or Andrade. If he ain't taking them 2 fights, or Munguia. If he ain't taking one of them 3 fights, he need to move up to 168 and get a good win over Benavidez or Caleb Plant. Then I think Canelo Alvarez will entertain a fight. Now, Jermall Charlo is the most lucrative offer for Canelo Alvarez. That's the fight he can make the most amount of money. But at this point in time, Canelo Alvarez has made big money. He made a lot of money in the Caleb Plant fight. He made $40 million for that fight. The fight did 800,000 pay-per-view buys. So the fight did did around 64 million on pay-per-view. That's what it grossed, 64 million. You put that together with the live gates, you had the international pay-per-view money. That fight made a killing for the PBC. So they're dangling Jamal Charlo carrot in front of Eddie Reynoso and Canelo Alvarez, but they don't seem to be excited about that fight. I think they want Charlo to first have a big win at 168, and then they will be willing to entertain a fight with Charlo. So those two names are out. I believe what's going to happen is Canelo Alvarez is going to 175 for his next fight, and I think it's two fighters that could be his next opponent. These are the only two guys I can see being the next fight for Canelo Alvarez. Either Joe Smith Jr. or Dmitry Bivol. I believe Dmitry Bivol is the WBA light heavyweight champion, and Joe Smith Jr. Might be Joe Smith. I might be throwing that Jr. on there, but Joe Smith, I believe it's Joe Smith Jr. is the WBO he's the WBO light heavyweight champion. That would be his next fight, one of these two opponents. Now, if it's Joe Smith, it's going to be part of a 2-fight deal. He'll fight Joe Smith. If he defeats Joe Smith, he'll then fight Arthur Beterbiev. That'll be a deal he'll have with Top Rank Boxing and ESPN. It'll be a 2-fight deal. I don't think he'll get no $40 million for that fight, but like I said, at this point in time, I don't think money is the only motivating factor for Canelo. I think he's trying to capture legacy. He's trying to do stuff that no Latino boxers have ever done, climb weight classes and win titles in multiple weight classes. Kind of like be the Manny Pacquiao of the Mexican boxer, basically. You know, Manny Pacquiao moved up from goddamn, what he was fighting, the strawweight, and moved up all the way up to different multiple weight classes and ended up getting a belt at 154 junior middleweight. That's the type of legacy I believe Canelo Alvarez is chasing. So that leads me to believe. You got to believe. Leads me to believe that Canelo Alvarez will be going up to 175 in this next fight. It'll either be Joe Smith Jr. or Dmitry Bivol. Now, Dmitry Bivol will be a fight he can have on the zone. That's guaranteed money. It won't be what he would make in a Jamal Charlo fight or what he made in a Caleb Plant fight, but they will be offer somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 to $35 million, and that could be a possible matchup for Canelo Alvarez. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. The deal with Joe Smith and Dmitry Bivol, that would be on ESPN pay-per-view. That'd be a deal he'd be having with Top Rank Boxing. So I think those are the two likely opponents. The only two options for Canelo Alvarez is him and his team is looking at for his next fight to take place in Cinco de Mayo weekend in May. So we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. But again, Charlo, Benavidez are out, and it's down to Joe Smith Jr. Joe Smith Jr. got a fight against Steve Gafford coming up this Saturday. I know nothing about Steve Gafford. I've seen none of his fights. I got to go back and check out some of his fights, man. But Joe Smith Jr. is a guy that's knocked out Bernard Hopkins. And you put him in a pay-per-view fight with Canelo Alvarez, I guess Bobby Earl and them are thinking they could do similar numbers than Caleb Plant did. Caleb Plant Canelo did. You know, Caleb Plant sold the hell out of that fight. The altercation they got to it in the press conference leading up to that fight, you know, the slap fest and the push in the face, the mush in the face, that got a lot of headline news, and I think that helped sell the pay-per-view. And that fight did $800,000. Caleb Plant, you know, a lot of people still believe in the Great White Hope, and Joe Smith Jr. can fall in that same category. And Joe Smith Jr. has a better win, will have a better win going into the Canelo fight than Caleb Plant had, knocking out the Hall of Famer Bernard Hopkins in his last fight. Caleb Plant's best win was what, Ukataki? So Joe Smith has a better win going into that fight. I don't know if he has the same charisma to sell a fight as a Caleb Plant, but he does have that persuasion, that Caucasian persuasion, to maybe bring in similar to fans that came in to tune in and buy Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alvarez. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But let me know your thoughts about Canelo going up to 175 and fighting either Joe Smith Jr. or Dmitry Bivol. Which one of those opponents you think you would like to see? I think the tougher fight is Bivol, but the more exciting fight and the fight that probably makes more people tune in will be the Joe Smith Jr. fight. Even though he's a limited fighter, but he does have power, and he's a big light heavyweight. Very limited. The skill set is going to be a big gap between Canelo and Joe Smith. They do fight, but Joe Smith Jr. being a much bigger guy, a much physical guy, he'll try to do the Canelo like he did Bernard Hopkins. Just, you know, basically try to overwhelm him with his size and strength. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Let me know your thoughts and follow me on Twitter, JBsports3303. Like and share this video and subscribe to JB Sports. The man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.